Hi, I'm Wisu. This week, I made a surprising discovery. I found that searching the web for sad or emotional piano music actually brings up a lot of pieces that are within reach for beginner or intermediate students. So today, we'll be talking about Is This Love? It's a song from an anime called Sword Art Online, which has an interesting premise. Basically, you're trapped in a virtual world. But the music is really good and better than the story, I think. Apparently, Is This Love is quite a popular song, and there are a lot of covers and transcriptions online. The problem is, all of them are a half step lower than the original song. Since I couldn't find any scores in the original key, I decided to transcribe it myself. Today I'm going to talk about melody. I've notated the song in a way that might seem a little bit odd if you're not used to it, but this way lets us clearly see what is the melody and what is not. Here we have a bunch of notes with stems pointing up and others pointing down. These indicate different voices or musical lines. This is not a new way of notation. Bach was doing this 300 years ago. Polyphonic music, that's music with multiple voices, is typically written this way, for example, choral music. We can also think of voices as separate instruments written together on the same page. Actually, this piano version of Is This Love is an arrangement of another song of the same name from the same album. The original version, I believe, was written for piano quartet. That's violin, viola, cello, and piano. So the composer had to condense 4 instruments into one. Luckily, we have 10 fingers, and that's one of the beauties of playing the piano. With 10 fingers, we can be an entire orchestra. So let's take a look at the score in detail. The right hand contains 2 voices, also called lines, where notes in the same voice have stems pointing in the same direction. The upper voice has stems pointing up, and the lower voice has stems pointing down. In any piece of music, the top voice is often the melody, and in this case, it is. Now, the lower voice, with stems pointing down, is not the melody. This sounds nice, it's musical, and it's also melodic, but it's not the main melody, so we could call it a counter melody. It helps support the main melody while also adding some interest to the song. Without this voice, this song would sound like this. It sounds fine, maybe a bit empty, but now let's hear it with the middle voice added. This version sounds much richer, fuller, and overall more interesting. Now, how do we know that this middle voice is actually not part of the melody? After all, many transcriptions of this song online have written it like this. So why does this melody not sound as good? The reason is, good melodies are singable. I'm not talking about words. This song doesn't have any lyrics. I'm talking about the interval between notes. Singable melodies tend to have notes with small intervals because singers, and well, most people, have more difficulty hitting big jumps between notes. So good singable melodies tend to have mostly small intervals interspersed with a couple larger intervals to keep things interesting. Let's look at the melody. It starts out stepwise, goes up, okay, keeps going up, and then here goes up a fifth, so that's a jump. Then goes down a third, down another third, goes up a fourth, then down. So mainly stepwise at the end. So this follows our guidelines for good melodies. Most of the intervals are smallish, seconds or thirds, and the largest interval was the fifth, which is actually not that big. Now let's look at the poorly notated score, which tells us that the melody is this. We already have down a third, down a fourth, and then up a seventh. So that's seventh is a huge interval, and we're already starting out with a lot of these jumps. So let's keep going. That was the fifth we saw before. Okay, and then down an octave, that's an eighth, then up a seventh, and then down a fifth, and then up a sixth. These intervals that jump down and then right back up almost to the same place, you will hardly see any melodies that do that. So this is very rare for melodies. So the way this is written with all these big leaps makes the melody hard to sing and thus not a good melody. So this is probably not the melody that we're looking for. There's one more method to figure out what is a melody, but it won't work all the time, and this is actually quite simple. Just go listen to the original song. Now, hopefully the melody is crystal clear. So when we play this music, we need to distinguish what is melody and what is not. The simplest way to do this is play the line that is not the melody a little softer. To make it easier, we can start with two hands. And then, once you're more comfortable, you can try both lines with a single hand. Now, if you're an astute listener, you might go listen to the piano version on YouTube, and then you'll wonder, why does the pianist seem to bring out the middle line as if that was the main melody? Let's take a listen. Well, if you continue listening, you'll hear that the second time the melody comes around, the top line gets emphasized. So this is a case of when you repeat something, don't play it the same 2 times in a row. Do something different, but maybe that can be a topic for another time.